Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Here once again, I know it's been a while since the last time we talked. Despite the fact we've been in quarantine, I've been very busy. So I hope that you all are doing well, staying safe and healthy. That your families are safe and healthy. I think we're kind of at this point now where things are in an interesting place in terms of different economic influences and how that might play a part in the real estate world. I know that there's a lot of interesting things in the wind. All things we'll discuss on a number of shows probably. Right now, though, I wanted to focus on something that I think kind of indicates counter to common wisdom right now, right? Or maybe wisdom isn't the right word, to general opinion out in the world. Now, in the course of doing what I do, I talk to other real estate agents pretty frequently. The average real estate agent seems to have some pretty interesting opinions, strongly held without much data behind it. Almost all of them hold very enthusiastic opinions in terms of where the market's going, in terms of prices staying where they are. But I thought I'd throw some data at you that I think is worth stopping and thinking about. And I don't want to do this framed in just only people in my market should care about these numbers. I don't want to frame it that way. I want to deliver this in a way that you can look at what I'm looking at in your local market and figure out what is actually happening where you are, because that's what makes it relevant, right? If you don't live in Morgan Hill, if you don't live in Silicon Valley, if you can't take this knowledge and then apply it to your local area, it's really not that helpful. So, in that spirit, there are a few things I want to cover that I think kind of kick the narrative around a little bit. The folks in the real estate world, and this is the common thing, something I've warned my listeners about in the past. You have to worry where people's vested interests are, right? Now, the real estate world, the National Association of real estate agents, pushing this idea that prices are going up and things are looking like they're going to go like gangbusters, that fits their narrative, right? The National Association of Realtors makes money by having lots of real estate agents. They get lots of real estate agents by indicating to folks who are thinking about becoming real estate agents that the markets are booming. It's a great time for you to get in and start doing the business of real estate and making money at it. So there's that. Then there is the bias that you are naturally going to see among most real estate folks in that they want to be able to make the argument, now's a great time to sell your home because prices are high, and now's a great time to buy a home because there's no telling how much higher they're going to go, right? So let's talk about that for a second. Let's do a little comparison between now and the same time last year. Now, the narrative that's out there in the headlines right now is super aggressive sales, multiple offers, low inventory, which is absolutely true, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they also talk about increased prices that are unusual. And my argument is going to be that they are unusual, but not in the direction that most folks are talking about. So let's jump right in. And I created some graphics that I put on Instagram. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can just do a search for Rebel Broker. I'm up there as that. You can also find me at my website, soldbyrobert.com. So feel free to follow. I'm also up on Facebook. We're going to be doing and this is something I don't think I've ever mentioned on the show before. Every month I do a coffee and real estate live chat via Facebook. I'm also going to try to do it simultaneously on YouTube and Facebook at the same time for the next one. But that is next Saturday. So feel free to join in. If you want to go to facebook.com/WhitelawRE/live, you can find it there. Or if you want to go onto YouTube, you can just do a search on Rebel Broker and find it there. But I'll be shooting, and I'll also be trying to have it be embedded in my website at soldbyrobert.com when it's happening. I tried doing that with Facebook last time, and for whatever reason that did not work. But I know I can pretty easily embed it in from YouTube. So either way, I'm hoping to have it up there next time. But anyway, a great opportunity for you to ask me questions. I like to talk about the topics of the day, what's going on in real estate, and it's a great opportunity for you live in real time to ask me questions about things we're talking about, or to even ask me to look up some data that you're interested in. So make sure to take advantage of that. Coffee and Real Estate, a once a month Saturday morning chat from 10 a.m. Pacific to at least 11 a.m. Pacific. Sometimes it goes longer depending on what's going on, or if there's folks asking, having interesting conversations. So feel free to join me for that. So let's go ahead and get calibrated, right? What I'm showing here are trends that I find are also true in the county. Now, the county is performing a little better, but we're not seeing a blowout as you would expect in some of these numbers, given what our current inventory numbers are. So let's go ahead and jump in and just look at data, right? Now, the first thing I want to share with you is asking price. What percent of asking price would you guess people are getting for their homes right now? When you ask folks, when I ask real estate professionals, all of them universally tell me everybody's getting over asking price. That is not entirely true. Now, I know I managed to do that with a escrow that is going to be closing here in a few days. But by and large, that is not the case. How do I know that? Because I'm looking at the numbers from June of 2020 and June of 2019. Now, in 2019, homes were selling for 99.7% of asking price. Okay, so just under asking price. So about asking price. Not over asking price. Just about asking price. So given the hype we're seeing in the market today, the conclusion that most people come to is, well, then things must be really much more aggressively better today than they were a year ago. Well, if we look at the numbers, we find out that's not really true. In June of 2020 of this year, that same percent was 99.9, so only 0.2% higher. Now, one other thing you're going to want to understand, particularly when you're looking in smaller markets, like Morgan Hill is a much smaller market than, say, San Jose, which is a gigantic city to the north, is the total volume of sales that happen in any given month. And I tend to go and take a look to see if there's any outliers that really drag it up or down. And what we tend to see is that in this case, that's not a problem, right? But you always want to be aware of that. It just means the margin of error gets wider, right? So for all intents and purposes, this 99.7% versus this 99.9% are really within the margin of error of each other. So I would say no change from last year. So flat. Flat is not the way anyone is describing this particular statistic when it comes to comparisons from last year, right? So that's number one. So put that to one side. You're a seller, you're listing your home. The odds of you getting over asking price are not great if you just consider the average, right? There's some variation in price bracketing and that type of stuff, but we're trying to get a broader feel for this, right? Now, here's the next piece of data. Average price. In June, the average Morgan Hill price for a home in June of 2019 was $1,091,106. Okay? So let's just round that up to $1.1 million. In June of 2020, the average price was $1,042,100. So let's just round that up to $1,050,000, right? So a $50,000 difference between last year and this year, and it's not an incline, it's a decline in average price. So let's wrap our head around that for a second. We're seeing about equal performance in terms of sales price versus asking price. So that's a wash. And we're seeing a slight decrease in average price of what's actually selling in the marketplace in Morgan Hill. Now let that sink in for a second as we look at the next statistic. And the next statistic is the one you absolutely want to grab onto, because I think, and we've argued this, we've anecdotally discussed this, right? I've talked about this particular statistic in terms of what I'm seeing in the marketplace. But if we look at the number of homes currently on the market for sale in June of 2019 in Morgan Hill, that number was 160. There were 160 active listings in June of 2019. In June of 2020, there were 67. So that was the total number of homes available to get bought. Let's pretend that the previous two stats we talked about, average price and sales price versus list price ratio, are about a wash, right? We did see a $50,000 difference from one year to the next and lost on that, but let's all call it all equal. If I told you that I had inventory today that was only 42% of the inventory I had last year, a dramatic drop like that, what would you logically conclude, right? Assuming all other things are equal, what would you logically say you would expect from these other stats? Well, if I saw a 60% drop in something in terms of its availability, I would expect the cost for that thing and the amount of bidders for that thing to dramatically increase, which in my world would equal much higher average prices and over 100% capturing of sales prices relating to list prices. We see none of that. What's funny is, as I've reported before, we are seeing that far more sellers retreated from the marketplace than buyers. I think I talked about it. I can't remember the last. I think I may have mentioned it in the last show I did, the last real estate reality show. I know I mentioned it in the last coffee and real estate show. But I did not see a decrease in buyers, anecdotally for me. And I realize it's a super small sample, but in terms of the number of people clicking on my Google ads and the number of people calling me about listings and just the number of people who reached out to me about my listings, I saw, if anything, more action than I saw the same time last year in terms of just general buzz and interest. In terms of folks I have actually every day checking results on a search for a home, I have as many, if not more, than I did a year ago. So in terms of active buyers, and an active buyer in my world, in terms of searches, is a buyer who has an active search running and who checks those results every time they get them. So, I have some folks who maybe a home doesn't come up that fits their search, but once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. And then I have others where their search is more broad and they're getting listings every day. Those folks I can see are going to the portal to view listings, and they're doing this every time they get an update. So those are active people. Some of them are going in there every day, but other folks are going in there every day. There's an update. So lots of active buyers. Given that truth, why are we not seeing tons more homes selling for over asking and tons more homes selling for a higher average price? Given that dramatic drop in inventory, that should be a worry because you're not seeing any of the symptoms you would normally associate with a dramatic drop in inventory. So where should we go with this? As things progress and we start to move out of quarantine zone time, we have to start thinking about, well, what happens when we start to even vaguely see an increase in the inventory of homes that are available? Because there is no up, right? There's a little bit of a gain in some corners, but currently right now with dramatically reduced inventories, we're seeing flat performance where we should see escalated performance. So if we start to see even a 25% increase in the number of folks putting their homes on the market, if we see it start to approach, let's pretend this 160 a month is the norm. We'll just consider it normal, whatever is normal for that month. Even if we don't get to 160, even if it just goes up to 100, well, that's 33 more homes on the market, right? That's a pretty dramatic. That's a 1/3 increase in what's currently out there. What does that do to these prices? Suddenly, there's a lot more homes trying to attract the same number of buyers. Now, while the number of buyers did drop by a bit during the quarantine, from a statistical standpoint, again, in my world, I didn't really see any of that. In some cases, I actually see more people searching for homes now than a year ago. But overall in the marketplace, the word I'm getting is there's been some level of drop, much lower drop than the number of sellers. Now, as soon as any of these sellers come back, I think we're going to see this getting rocked. Now, here's what's interesting. At the same time we're seeing all this, here's that fourth stat that I think throws things into an interesting mix. We have had a moratorium. There's a lot of things that have been going on. Unemployment benefits are about to stop. We have had instances where in some areas you can't evict folks not paying their rent, and all of that stuff is coming to a close. Unemployment payments are stopping. and we're far enough in that we're going to see a huge influx in the number of people not getting unemployment or not getting these relief checks, and landlords simply can't keep going, not collecting rent. So if the system makes it impossible for these folks to continue to collect rent in any way, what is the logical response on the part of a landlord? Now, it depends on the landlord. I happen to have a property that I use as a vacation rental in Hawaii, which right now is probably one of the most hard-hit places in the country. But the way I manage that, I had kind of a buffer built in. So I will not be jumping in to try to sell my property because I can't rent it. But what about folks who aren't in that boat? What about folks who are property owners who are now seeing a situation where they need to get that home sold? Now, in terms of homes I've looked at lately, and I've looked in Morgan Hill, South San Jose, I've even looked in Salinas and in Tracy and in Los Banos. I've looked at some pretty far-flung communities. One thing I was surprised by was the number of homes that are currently for sale that either were rentals and were currently vacant or were currently occupied by tenants. A little bit higher of a percentage than normal. I can see a scenario where in addition to the normal sellers who come along, I could see an awful lot of landlords deciding to get out because they simply can't make things work anymore, and they're seeing an opportunity where prices are higher. But all of that jumping in will bring those prices down, right? Because you're increasing inventory that way. So I think the next few months are going to be super critical. I think that as soon as we start to see any comfort level increase on the part of sellers relating to COVID, relating to the quarantine, stepping up to decide, you know what, I'm comfortable enough to sell now. I'm not as worried about having people come into my home and potentially, leaving COVID floating around in the inside of my property. As that evaporates, as that concern goes away, and those folks start to join the marketplace, I don't think that equals a market a year from now where the average price has gone up or the ratio of sales price to asking price has increased. I don't think if you look at these numbers honestly, you'll come to the same conclusion. So here's what you need to do to make this relevant to you. Now, this is all super relevant if you're somebody who's in Morgan Hill or in the South Silicon Valley area. This is all super relevant to you. I think this is stuff that's really going to have an impact on our local market. If not, you can easily go and get this data from your local real estate person. You can probably even get it from sites like Zillow and Trulia, and look at their market data and see what's the average price today compared to the same time last year. What's the ratio of asking price to list price compared to the same time last year? You might have to get that one from a real estate agent. Maybe not. I'm sure there's different data available in different areas. And then finally, what are the total number of homes available for sale in a given month, and do comparisons to that. Now, that's one you probably will have to go to an agent for, but that's all going to be very interesting data to have. Another piece of data that you can look at that kind of hints to that is the number of the months of inventory available, which basically says if the inventory numbers currently froze as they are right now and sales continued at the same pace, how many months would it take to sell all that inventory, right? And you just want to compare that number to the same month in the previous year. And if this month is a higher number, that indicates you've got more inventory, right? Because it's a question of drawdown of inventory. But those are numbers I wanted to throw out there today. I think anybody who's honest about just general stats relating to real estate will find this super interesting and potentially a perspective on how the market is doing and where it might be going that will be really helpful to buyers, sellers, investors, whatever your interest level in real estate is. I think this is going to be a good one to pay attention to. So take it for what it's worth for you. I think it's very interesting. I know that I'm making decisions and looking at strategies that are designed to embrace this reality. I hope you do too. If you'd like to reach out to me, feel free to head over to the website, soldbyrobert.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Rebel Broker, Facebook, do a search on White Lawn Sons Real Estate or Rebel Broker, or Instagram at Rebel Broker. I'm on all of them, so feel free to reach out there. The goal here is to always leave you with more knowledge on the table than I take up in your time. Hope we've achieved that. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you all next time.